That's great. Here, let me have this. Well, good morning, Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I'm joined by the Block Group Administration Cell. On camera, you'll see Jeff, and behind the screen, working really going to be monitoring any comments or questions that come across on Facebook is Rhonda. Jeff and Rhonda, with a little bit of legal support, make up our Block Group Administration Cell, or what I refer to as the BGAC. The purpose of this 1 hour session really is for Jeff and I just to sit here and talk, unless you become interactive and start asking questions. This is about a 1 hour opportunity for the applicants to the COVID-19 relief Carbon County Block Grant program to have those issues, those concerns answered in regards to the program, how it's being administered, what may or may not qualify under this specific program, and how you can take advantage of this opportunity to offset some of the expenses that your entity or organization has incurred in regards to prepare, respond, and preventing COVID-19. Before I turn it over to Jeff and start the conversation with him, I do want to talk a little bit about the organizational structure, just to refamiliarize those who already have seen it, or maybe those who are just tuning in, and the process. So the administrative of the organization that is administering this starts at the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners delegates authority to administer this program to the Block Grant Administration Cell. So Jeff, Rhonda, and the legal support there. They synchronize and coordinate the efforts of 5 different committees. Those committees are specific to certain areas in which grants can be applied for, such as tourism, small businesses, and 3 other broader areas.
Hello?
Well, you are going to have a chance in a few minutes to do a call-in opportunities. That isn't one of them, but 570-503-6780 will be the call-in. So again, we have 5 committees who more or less will be reviewing the applications when they come in. The application period started a week ago. The application period will run through 31 July.
Okay.
So you have about a week left to apply for a COVID-19 relief Carbon County Block Grant. Jeff, can you give a little insight up to this point? How has the response been from Carbon County entities in request-wise?
We've received a few, maybe 20, around 20, from all different types of businesses, some nonprofits, some small businesses, and tourism. I don't think we've had, did we get municipalities? Okay, and 1 or 2 municipalities have come in. I expected it was going to take some time for the people to be able to gather their information and put it all together. So since this just opened last Wednesday, or last Thursday actually, we're a little bit over a week into it. About where I expected to see it. I would expect the next week, right up until July 31st, to be busier for that to occur. But you're putting out an awards list or an application list of the individuals on the website of who has applied and information like that. So that'll be out there. I would say if you look at that and you put it in and you go on the website and you look at that list that Chris is putting out, if you don't see your name there, please email Rhonda at the COVID grant coordinator email that's in the application process, just to ensure that your application is received by us and then gets put up on the site so that we don't miss any.
I think Jeff is referring to the site. So if you go to carboncounty.com, right there, center mass, when you open that on your browser, you're going to see COVID-19 Carbon County Block Grant Portal. You'll want to click on there. You want to read the general instructions, and you want to go down to the application areas and download onto your computer, your desktop, your C drive, etc., that PDF fillable form, fill it out, follow the directions, both the general directions, which guide you through the technical aspects of filling it out, and probably more importantly, the specific instructions that the BCAG has put together for each of the 5 different categories for which we're accepting applications. I'm telling you, there's 2 how-to videos on there for filling out the form. I highly suggest you take the 13 to 14 minutes and review those. So this is Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I'm joined by Jeff on camera and Rhonda behind the scenes. This is the BCAG Block Grant Administration Cell, and this is your opportunity through Facebook to ask a question, or the other opportunity, you can call 570-503-6780. Rhonda, our screener, will take your call, ensuring there's no foul language, no disparaging comments, and then pass them to Jeff, who is our subject matter expert. And we're blessed with Jeff because he's not only supporting Carbon County in this effort, but you have other responses with another county. So he's gathering all this information and this experience to provide to you the expertise you needed to that ensure you're a first-time go when you apply for a Carbon County block grant. Now, the county has $5.79 million available, and it is our goal to effectively administer and disperse $5.79 million. But you have a critical role to play in that, and that is getting your applications in to or through the Carbon County portal. Jeff, are we seeing any notable challenges for individuals who are applying, or any notable absences of information that's required to have a kind of a first-time go, as I refer to?
Yeah, I think one of the items is make sure you follow exactly what the instructions are. Chris mentioned the 2 how-to videos. I would recommend you look at them. What we found is a lot of people are not really downloading the form, and they're filling them out in their browser rather than as a downloadable form. And if that occurs and you fill it out, it does not get submitted correctly. So make sure that you're downloading it and actually filling it up, and then emailing it to the file with the email button. And then the second one is major issue is the attachments. There are a list of attachments in the application that you need to include, and ensuring that those attachments are included in your filing and they actually get attached when you send the email is important. And follow the instructions correctly and make sure that what we're asking for, best example is 990s for 990s for the nonprofits, or the IRS determination letter. One of the requirements for the federal and state government passed down through this is that a nonprofit, in order to be eligible for a grant, have to be a 501c3 or a 501c19. We need to have those determination letters from the IRS. They need to be in your attachments. It's one of the most important things from a nonprofit side to have those forms. So just following the instructions and downloading it correctly, and then emailing it, and also correctly attaching the attachments has been the 2 biggest issues we've come across.
Rhonda, you have a question out
We
there?
do. Kevin Klein is asking, are these use it or lose it funds for the county? In other words, is your goal to exhaust all of the grant?
That is correct. The grant period is through December 30th. The county must incur the expenditures prior to December 30th and mail out the checks within 90 days of that December 30th deadline. Any money of that 5.79 that Chris spoke of, if it is not spent, it is returned to the state government, and then in turn returned to the federal government, Department of Treasury. So this is a use it or lose it grant.
Right. And Jeff brought up a great point that, again, this is going forward to the end of December, potential expenses. Jeff, can you talk a little bit about kind of forecasting expenses? Because there are activities, perhaps purchases that may have to take place after this initial application period closes down. How do you project loss or expenditures in this application process? What's the requirement?
You can project the expenditures through having a quotation. So if you're going to want to do something, do a project that is helping you respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, you can submit a quote that is for a project to be done in the future. The one issue that Carbon County will implement is that the actual money won't be transferred to you. You may be awarded the grant, maybe awarded that you're gonna get the money. However, until you actually supply the invoices and the canceled checks, then paid invoices, that's when the money will be sent from Carbon County over to you. Lost revenue is really what you've lost through current. It's gonna be difficult to project that forward because nobody knows
Sure.
how long this is gonna go on. So for the current one, you can show lost revenue through July 31st or through the current day. Now, if you have an entity like a nonprofit or even another business that already knows something is being canceled, Carbon County Fair is a perfect example. I know lots of nonprofits have stands at the Carbon County Fair that's been canceled. Those nonprofits, if they are 501c3s or 501c19s, have the opportunity to submit documentation on the lost revenue caused by them not being able to run their food stand or whatever at the Carbon County Fair. So if items like that are being canceled and you certify that they're being canceled, you could put in for those, and then we could look at that information. I mean, that kind of gives me the chance to qualify this. Everything that we've put out, all the applications we've put out is based upon the current regulations that have been put down by the federal government as well as the Department of Community and Economic Development at the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is a changing scape on a lot of places or a lot of things. So if DCED, Department of Community and Economic Development, provides additional guidelines prior to us awarding the grants, we may have to change things, and things that we're saying may actually change. So if they come out with regulations that change the way we're looking at it, because currently what we've done is based our analysis and our legal opinions that we have helping us on the federal guidelines as well as the state guidelines that have been issued up to this point. But if they come out with new guidelines, we may have to change something going forward, and we may need additional documentation. So just want to warn you about that ahead of time. You may be getting an email in the future that says something changed and we need another piece of paper. We need another piece of paper. We need something. But you can project those revenues, and if you know you're going to have lost revenue, that's something you can put in for. So.
Well, thank you for joining us again. This is Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I'm joined by both Jeff on the screen and Rhonda behind the scenes from the Block Grant Administration Cell. And for about the next 45 minutes, we're going to continue to answer your questions that you may have in regards to the county's administering of this $5.79 million block grant program that is specifically focused on COVID-19, prepare, respond, and prevent. So there's two ways you can get your questions to us. Of course, you have the chat rolling function right there in Facebook, or if you're more comfortable, requires a little more explanation. 570-503-6780. And I'm going to ask Rhonda to type that number right in the comments section. That's 570-503-6780. And what Jeff and I are going to do every once in a while, we'll take a pregnant pause, look over at Rhonda to ensure she has an opportunity to interject when there is a question. Because I know that Jeff is kind of like me, we're both talkers. And what I've learned here, no doubt, the worst thing that happens on radio or on Facebook is dead air. But at the same time, those pregnant pause allows our screener, Rhonda, to go ahead and throw those questions to us that may be out there streaming on Facebook.
So yes,
Yep.
we do have some questions.
Okay.
We have a question from Jan Michael. Who approves applications and dollar amount? Do approvers have to divulge if they have a conflict of interest with the applicant?
Well, ultimately, the Board of Jan, and thank you, I recognize that. I think I may have commented on Facebook previously to a similar question. First and foremost, at the end of the day, why we can delegate authority, the Board of Commissioners can't delegate responsibility. The ultimate decision makers are the Board of Commissioners. And if you would go to the portal, on the fourth image down, there's a transparency page, right? That shows the applicants, the status, and importantly, you'll see column rows for each commissioner. And once our opportunity comes to review these applications, we'll vote yes, no, or recuse. In addition, there's a remarks comment. So for example, I know there's a nonprofit that applied for a small grant. I have a family member who's on that board. For that particular grant, I will recuse myself, just like maybe we have a commissioner who's a member of a fire department. You know, the expectation would be that individual would recuse himself, again, to ensure there's no apparent or unapparent, conflict of interest, whatever the case may be. And you kind of alluded to something about the disbursement. And this ties into something Jeff mentioned just a few minutes ago. Understanding that this program goes to the end of December, it is not the initial intent for the Board of Commissioners to disperse 100% of the funds on this first round. And I say this first round because we're looking at the potential for a second round of disbursements based upon any remaining funds. But what we have decided initially is let's get all the applications in and then make an assessment if we're going to do it by percentage and what that percentage actually is. Because Jeff, if I recall, we have grants that go from $383 to $850,000 applications right now.
Of the applications that have come in, that's correct.
Right now. So very diverse. Did we answer Jan's question pretty much?
I believe we did.
Okay.
So we have some more.
Yeah.
Yes. Barbara Franzosa.
Yeah.
And I apologize if I say anyone's name wrong.
All right.
If guidelines change, where can we look to see the changes?
I'm assuming that we'll put them on the website. The applications will change, but we'll be able to put that on the website that if something specific changes, we'll put that out on the website and just let everybody know about it right up front.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and right on the application page, if you go to the application page, you'll see there's probably one highlighted comment right now, which is basically download the form to your desktop or your C drive, more or less what it says. However, should there become changes that are going to influence your potential to qualify, we will ensure those are highlighted, flaming, whatever it takes to ensure you have that information right there before you download it. In addition, we'll push it out on Facebook, on the Carbon County Commissioner Facebook page. Of course, we'll leverage the press to also get those notable changes out, Barb. Thank you for your question, Barb. Barb's a former, as of the 21st of last month, she's a former Kidder Township supervisor. So thanks to your service to Kidder Township, Barb. Yep.
Okay, Gannon Getz. Regarding projection of loss of revenue, how far in advance can we estimate without knowing for sure how long we need canceled events for the year?
The recommendation that we're making is that you do it for events that are canceled as of now. If there's a possibility that the event's going to occur or even maybe be downscaled slightly, that the revenue might be less than what has been in the prior years, we don't want to go that far, and we're not under the federal and state regulation, we're not allowed to go that far, so we would have to take those off anyway. So for what you have now, we just want to know what's been canceled for your lost revenue, and then anything that, I just used the Carbon County for as an example, we know that's canceled, so that event's going to be canceled, that you're not going to have that stand being done, you can put in for those. So if it's 100% canceled, I would say is what you need to look at when you're asking whether or not there's lost revenue to be covered.
So let me go ahead and clarify or reemphasize the process for those who may not yet applied or have not yet gone to carboncounty.com and clicked on the portal. The process is between now and the 31st, and it really started last week, from last Thursday close at 4:30 until next Friday at midnight ostensibly, applications are being accepted. From that point, there's going to be a 1-week period which the Block Grant Administration Cell, the BGAC, will do a quality assurance, quality control, and reach back out to any entities that implied if we identified any gaps in information or documentation. After that 1 week period, those applications will be sent to the 5 committees: small business, tourism, nonprofit, municipalities, and then there's really a miscellaneous: broadband, behavioral health, and all others. Those committees will take approximately 2 weeks and assess the applications, and they will send them back to the BCAG in a prioritized manner with any remarks and comments in regards to informing the decision by the commissioners. So at 2 weeks, the committee send them back to the BCAG. They take another look at them, make sure all the information that's helped to help the commissioners make their final decision. The commissioners will then host a series of meetings where we'll make a final determination, and then the awards will take place with disbursement. So more or less in a nutshell, wave top, that is the process. So if you have any questions, go ahead right there in the chat function on Facebook. Or if you're not so shy, feel free to call 570-503-6780. But I want to throw one more important phone number out there, and Rhonda's going to type this in. And this is for the BCAG, the BGAC, right? That's Rhonda and Jeff. 570-325-3611. 570-325-3611. If you have any questions on what might qualify, what won't qualify, simply doing the application that you have downloaded to your desktop, attaching documents, give us a call at 570-325-3611. We can talk you through it. We can do a share screen. There's many ways that we can facilitate and expedite your process. So we have any questions?
We do.
All right.
Okay, Jason Seitz. Jeff, we are a small business like Harmony Turismo.
Yeah.
LLC. We are a minibus limo service. We have been heavily affected. How should we apply? Through tourism or small business? 75% tourism, weddings, balance is contract work. And we actually have another person who had a very similar question regarding a winery. My husband's winery was meant to open a tasting room this month in Jim Thorpe and is now adapting plans due to COVID, and we'd like to apply, but they would like to hear more about the difference between the small business and the tourism categories. That was from Amber Reiner.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest, there's not a big difference between the small business and the tourism, with the exception of one major item, and it comes into really a number of employees, which probably neither of these businesses will be affected by that either way. 100, if you have less, to apply for the small business grant under the federal and state regulations, you must have less than 100 employees. For the tourism one, the federal requirements are 500. Less than 500 employees. The state is still battling with that to try to get that number increased, but right now we're following the 500 employees. So the only difference of which one you apply for actually is if you have more than 100 employees, you would need to apply for the tourism one. There is no, the county has not set that they're going to give a certain dollar figure for small businesses and a certain dollar figure for tourism. They haven't split it down into, you know, they're going to give 50% of the money to small businesses and the rest of it to the other groups. So as of right now in the county, there's no difference really in which one you apply for. And I'm assuming, since we've had this conversation a few times going forward, you're, sorry, I'm getting back feed.
I did something wrong.
All right.
Okay, I think I fixed it.
Apologize, a little bit of technical difficulty.
Yeah.
It doesn't really apply, doesn't really matter which one you apply for is I guess the best answer under the current county regulations.
So then tying in with that, the additional question is there a minimum amount of time you need to be in operation?
So would you have to have been in operation?
You had to be in
before
operation
1
prior to
March?
March 1st under the regulations. March 1st, 2020, you would have had to have been in operation. Because the time period for the federal grant actually began on March 1st, and you had to be in operation prior to that.
Yeah, and to me, that makes perfect logic. Otherwise, there is a potential
Correct.
For fraud. I could stand up a business tomorrow and claim.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's the date. You had to be in business prior to March 1st.
So again, if you have any questions, all you have to do is go ahead right there in the chat, or you can call 570-503-6780. This is Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. I'm joined by 2 members of the Block Grant Administration Cell, the BGAC, Jeff, who's on screen, and Rhonda, who's really doing our screening of questions. And this is the opportunity over about the next 30 minutes to ask questions specific to the subject matter experts on the administration, the application process of the county's COVID-19 relief grant program. So again, take advantage of this opportunity. You have a question, just go ahead, type it in on your chat. Rhonda will read it off to Jeff and myself. We'll get that answered for you. After this session ends, if you're working your application and you have questions, you can dial 570-325-3611, and Rhonda can help work through the technical questions for you. And I'm going to throw another number out there, which is the 24/7 number, 570-503-6780. That guy on the end of that number, 24/7, will also help you on the technical side. I'm always going to defer to Jeff for the practical issues in regards to qualifications. But when it comes to working the PDF fillable form, the attachments, things of that nature, please come to me if it's a Saturday or a Sunday like this coming weekend when the county is closed, because that 570-325-3611 is manned from 8:30 to 4:30. That other number, 570-503-6780, is manned 22 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not available between 5:30 and 7:30 in the evenings. Other than that, you can call. So any questions there? We have any?
Yes,
Yep.
Amber does have a follow-up. Oh, shoot, this screen
It just
moved.
disappeared? Yeah.
She wanted to know if there were any categories that were getting more applications than others. And that
Rhonda?
information is on the transparency website. You will see that a lot of them are small business,
Mhm.
which many fall into that category. As
Yeah.
Jeff mentioned, tourism or small business, it depends on the size of people in your employ. So,
So again, Amber, all you need to do is go to the portal, right, carboncounty.com, click on the portal. The 4th image down on the actual page, you'll see diagonally running from left to right, a 45-degree, transparency, applicant and grant information. And right there, you'll see a PDF spreadsheet that's updated Monday through Friday daily at close of business here with the applicants there by category, by amount requested.
Jan has a question, and I think we have to clarify the amount. Do you foresee needing more than 9.5 million? If so, a percentage should be given so that everyone gets a taste of the pot of money.
Mhm.
So it's not 9.5 million, it's
5.79
million.
And that's a discussion that the commissioners will have once all the applications come in. And based upon that, that's gonna be a decision. Once we get all the applications, I met with the commissioners before we put this out, and I said, we have no clue what we're gonna get. So that's why they put the applications out the way they did, and we'll see what comes in, and then
Right.
we'll meet with the commissioners and the committees, the 5 committees, and see how things get dealt out.
Right. Again, we're asking the committees to make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. Again, that entire process is transparent. You can check it out online. It's updated daily. It is the intent of the commissioners to ensure that any entity that applies and qualifies is considered for disbursement. Obviously, we do have to prioritize because there are limited resources, and that resource is money. But again, it would be our intent to ensure that all applicants who meet the requirements are provided funding. But again, until we sit down and make those final decisions, nothing is set in stone. And that's why I emphasize intent versus the will or shall,
Okay, Amber has an additional question. Regarding the minimum years in business, a friend of mine said as part of the application, you need to submit 3 years of financials. Is that true?
For lost revenue, what we are asking for is 18, 19, and then what you've done through 20. If you have not been in business during that time period, you need to state that you weren't in business in 2018. You compare it to 2019. What I will say is provide us as much support as you can for what you're putting down for as your lost revenue. You could just average 2 years and compare it then to 2020 or whatever. But if you have not been in business for that length of period of time, then just advise us of that and provide as much support as you can for what you deem to be your lost revenue that you're requesting.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, does a church qualify under any of the 5 categories under DCED, state or federal guidelines?
If they are a 501c3, because the church would not be a 501c19, those are veterans organizations. Okay. 501c3 organization is a determination made by the Internal Revenue Service. It's not made by Carbon County, and you need to have a 501c3 determination letter submitted along with your applications. Some churches are 501c3s or have parts of the church organizations that are 501c3s, and some do not. But currently, under the current regulations, the only nonprofits that can apply are 501c3s and 501c19s. I know there is a push to try to expand that. I don't know if it's going to occur because that's actually in the CARES Act regulation at the federal government. So I don't believe it's something that the state can change. Until that changes, it's only 501c3s and 501c19s. And as Chris said earlier, if something does change, we'll highlight it on the website under that area and let everybody know, hey, a new thing opened up if you're a 501c4, which are social welfare organizations, but as of right now, they can't apply.
Jeff, could you tell us a little bit about, there was a change after the first guidance came out. You referred to change, and that change specifically stated that, originally it stated if you had PPP or EIDL, you did not qualify, but a change popped up, right, pretty quickly. And can you explain that change?
Yeah, the original guidelines did state right in it from the state that the DCED, State Department of Community and Economic Development, put down had a requirement that if you received any PPP or Paycheck Protection Program money through the Small Business Association or Economic Injury Disaster Loan Money, EIDL, through that same organization, you were not eligible for this COVID-19 County Relief Block Grant funding. Maybe a week after the first requirements were put out, that did change. The wording that is there now is that the county is supposed to give preference to entities that did not supply or receive the PPP or EIDL money, as well as any other CARES Act funding. There is a significant number of grants out there. The state DCED itself has a small business grant program that was funded through this CARES Act. They put it out. Their requirement, if I remember correctly, and I don't deal with this one, but I'm pretty sure that those companies that applied for that, small businesses, need to actually be less than 25 employees. So there were some differences in that. But so if you've received one of the questions I think we're asking is whether or not you received those fundings or any fundings related to CARES Act money and the amount. And the reason for that is the county wants to give preference to the companies that weren't able to get that money.
Yeah. And I want to highlight, while there are a multitude of grants out there, this one is being administered on the local level. And I think that's critically important because we were very conscientious of making it as streamlined as possible, minimizing the amount of documentation to the essential, right? And not a ton of requirements for documentation, just the minimum essential to ensure that you do qualify. So again, I would encourage you to apply for this grant if indeed you are eligible. I think the disbursement process is going to be quickly, and in September you will see disbursements taking place unless there's some hiccup in the system that we don't foresee at this time. But understand, that $5.79 million is sitting in a county bank. So it's not like we're going to have to go to the state or federal government and work through a higher level bureaucratic process. Once we finish our process, which is clearly available online to see it and the tentative dates associated with that, we will be dispersing those checks. They will, and I say checks, but we will be dispersing those funds because we are highly encouraging, direct deposit versus, sending out checks. So do we have any questions there, Rhonda?
Yes, Jan is asking if there will not be any applications after July 31st.
Applications will not be accepted after July 31st. Now, based upon the final outcome and total of disbursements, there is a potential and under consideration a second round. But again, we don't really know, or we have not known the actual demand for this, right? And so therefore, we have to wait to see the demand signal, and then we can determine if we could go to a second round. But again, if you don't apply by July 31st, you have the potential to not receive any funding out of this program. Again, there's a clear cutoff. Come midnight at the end of July, you will receive a message if you attempt to apply after that point, like Saturday or Sunday. Unfortunately, the application period has closed. We'll also, as quickly as possible, close down the application portal site. You'll still be able to see the process, the transparency, the organization, but the actual accessibility to the applications will be shut down at that point.
Okay, so I believe his question is in reference to the preference that you mentioned, the change that came through, and he's saying, will you give a preference? So those organizations that did not receive PPP or EIDL, are we going to give them a preference in the funding first? And Jan, if I am misspeaking on your question, please send me a note.
Send me a note or call 570-503-6780. But in regards to preference, it would be my position to give preference to those who have not received PPP, EIDL, or any other CARES grant relief associated program. Now again, remember the process. The grant committees provide us a prioritized list of the commissioners. They have an opportunity to provide us remarks. We would expect those committees to follow the guidance, which is preference to those who have not received PPP or EIDL. So again, this is Commissioner Chris Lukasiewicz. I'm joined by Jeff and Rhonda of the Block Grant Administration Cell for the COVID-19 Relief Carbon County Block Grant Program. We're having a question and answer period, and we're going to continue for about the next 17 minutes or so, where we're going to continue to give you the opportunity to ask questions in regards to applying for a piece of the pie, that $5.79 million block grant that is available for disbursement to qualified applicants. And also, I'm going to ask those of you who are on Facebook right now, if you wouldn't mind sharing this live streaming with your contacts, right? We want as many people in Carbon County, or those who provide services for Carbon County residents during this period, to know that we're here for them, answering their questions, making the program available to those entities. So if you could give us a little bit of help, go ahead, hit that share button, send it to your contacts, send it to the groups you belong to. Let's ensure all 64,000 residents of Carbon County and the entities that they may belong to that qualify have an opportunity to apply for this grant. And educating them, informing them is a critical part of this. And this is part of that process. And I'm going to go ahead and ask Rhonda to type in once again the contact number for after this session closed. 570-325-3611, where you can speak directly to Rhonda and or Jeff Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. And we'll work to get you the answer on the spot. If not, we'll get back to you in a timely manner. So go ahead. Any question? Go ahead. Throw it in the chat. Rhonda.
Okay, we do have some questions. Jan is, I believe, relating back to the comment that you made about the committees giving guidance to the commissioners, and they are asking, will the guidance be followed?
All right. Committees don't give guidance. Committees give recommendation. Commissioners give guidance. Again, we were very selective in the individuals we asked to be committee leads. And I'm confident, knowing all four of the personalities who are committee leads, the fifth committee is actually the Board of Commissioners with the help of Rhonda and Jeff for that miscellaneous categories. I'm totally confident in their ability to be objective in their assessments and to follow the guidelines and the directions that have been provided to them in regards to how they should carry out their duties and responsibilities.
Okay, Amber is asking, are there any restrictions for what the funds can be used for? And then if so, what type of reporting will be required on the use of those funds?
Well, the restrictions are in each different type of grant. I guess the best example I can use is municipalities can only be reimbursed for actual costs that they've incurred in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. Nonprofits can be under this current grant regulations reimbursed for costs that they had to incur related to responding, as well as lost revenue. And the same goes for the small businesses and the tourisms. Broadband and the miscellaneous items have other different type of regulations. So the regulations actually are not going forward. The regulations are going to be what's in your application now and what they can cover. So if you follow the application process and you put in the information you're requesting, you will have met the regulations, or otherwise this group and the committees are going to not recommend any receipt of payment, because if you don't have expenses or lost revenue, then there's no funding to be provided.
Right.
I think hopefully that answers the question. But once you receive the money, you're pretty much, I guess the best way to put it is you're already being reimbursed for what you have incurred. Therefore, you have already met the requirements if you apply correctly and it's recommended by the group, by this group, by the block grant group, the committees, and then as well as the commissioners, and it gets through all those processes.
So you're referring to the BGAC. I know
BGAC.
you're kind of
I'm
stuck.
sorry.
I know, that's all right. I'm an acronym guy,
I'm
right?
not
So
an
I love
acronym guy.
BGAC, right? Instead of saying Block Grant Administration Cell. But Amber, a great comment. Again, I think though, it sounds like you're on the edge of the transparency thing. And again, this process is as transparent as any I've seen in Carbon County, and I'm a big believer in transparency, and I would challenge anyone to show a more transparent program. I would challenge any nonprofit in Carbon County to show me a more transparent process. It doesn't exist. all right? And that's not hyperbole. I truly believe that with all my heart. I do want to say, though, part of our process, an insistence upon electronic submission helps ensure that transparency and accountability and leaves that clear audit trail so that at any time, should a private citizen or DCED, who's ultimately responsible at the state level for administering and auditing that program, they can step in, take a look, and ensure that the funds have been utilized and dispersed for their intended purposes or incurred costs.
And she's also asking, will people need to submit receipts for the reimbursement? And that goes back to if you have costs incurred and you're requesting a specific amount, receipts.
That is correct. If you are requesting reimbursement for costs, or you're trying to show funding for costs that you have incurred, we are asking in the application that you provide the receipts. And if there is projects that want to be, that you're planning in the next month to do something, putting up plexiglass is the best one I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
And you have plans to do that, a quotation, and then the commissioners could award that money to you. They could award that grant to you. However, the money is not going to be dispersed to you until you prove it through paid receipts.
Right. Jeff, I want to focus just for a second here in the last 10 minutes, but just take a minute or so to focus on municipalities. If a municipality has an employee, and you mentioned plexiglass as an example, and that individual had to divert, let's say, 3 man-hours, woman-hours, to installing plexiglass, would that amount of time, in regard, monetarily speaking, be reimbursable?
That's an excellent question, because there is some discrepancies on this. But what the regulations currently state, that if they were doing it as their budgeted job in the budget that was approved prior to March 27th, 2020, or any amendments thereafter, it is not eligible. It needs to be something that you did to respond to the COVID above and beyond their normal job. So, for example, if they did that work outside of their normal job and you paid them overtime for it, the overtime would be qualified. Or if the individual was totally redeployed to a different job to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, then even though that individual was budgeted in the governmental budget prior to March 27th, if they were completely redeployed, then they become eligible. One of the best examples that I came across in conversations with entities over the past couple of days, actually, is one of my governments has an IT person, and that individual went to houses during his regular work day to set up for the employees to be able to work remotely.
Yeah.
They did it as part of their normal job, though, and therefore it would not be reimbursable.
Yeah, I have a problem with that, to be honest, because your normal duties and responsibilities, your work, your scope of work for the week, the month, is these specific things. This is an anomaly. You would not, in any plan, have it set up, you will be diverting 25 hours to do plexiglass installation and stuff like that. Yeah, I have a problem with that.
I understand, but it actually, they put out frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
The Department of Treasury did, and it actually is specific that the individuals needed to be redeployed in excess of 51% of their time
so
to
what
be
about,
able to charge.
In excess of what?
51% of their time.
So where are we with the hours with our BGAC administration cell?
She's in excess of 51% of her time.
We need to keep that there, right?
Yeah,
keep track. I know we keep. We're really good about.
She has been totally redeployed.
Right, totally redeployed. So again, totally redeploy it in order to claim it.
Correct.
Okay, we have Terry Young asking, which application would a public school use?
The governmental, municipal, under the governmental one.
You know, I do understand there is just a ton of money already out there for schools, and there's another big tranche that the federal government is getting will, I suspect, probably in the next couple of weeks, vote on. Matter of fact, it's probably going to be in the first segment. Unemployment, schools, and one other category are probably going to be a stopgap measure within the next week that will be approved at the federal level. That's an interesting topic.
Well, and I guess the best way to kind of respond to that is one of the frequently asked questions and one of the regulations from both the federal and the state government is you cannot allow double dipping.
Yeah.
And what that means is, and it's one of the questions on the application, we ask if you've received PPP or EIDL or any other grant money.
Yeah.
Because some of the entities have. Schools are
notable.
notable. A lot of some nonprofits have received it, and then some businesses received money through the local chamber here in Carbon County.
Yeah.
And we get that list. So we under this grant we can't allow double dipping. So we can't reimburse somebody for twice out of the same pot, out of the money from the federal government or from any other grant you've received.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the problems and going forward is just what Chris brought up. If the federal government tomorrow night, the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the President agree on another stimulus package, and it includes certain amount of money for schools, the county's going to have to look at that stimulus package and ensure that what they're potentially providing money for is not being paid for out of this new stimulus package.
Mm-hmm.
Because this one, at the county one, is a little less restrictive than some of the other grant money that's available out there. For example, the money coming down to the schools may be for them to be able to purchase laptops for every single individual school member or child. So we want to make sure we're not double dipping, and that's, I'm just throwing that out of the way. I'm not saying it's in there, so don't have everybody saying that, but we need to ensure that there's no double dipping of the funds in all of these grants that are being administered. And as I said, DCED came out with their own small business grant program.
Right.
So we need to try to ensure that all businesses are being covered in this, and giving the preference is why that was put in there. Giving the preference to the ones that have not received that money yet was put in the regulations by DCED.
Right. And we'll see, how it plays out with the committees. But I think, we can expect the guidance in regards to PPP and EIDL preference being carried out. And I would expect, due consideration will be given to any grants that have been provided. And I'm talking about the committees will duly consider that as they make their recommendations back to the Board of Commissioners for an ultimate decision on disbursement and how much of a disbursement to make. So do we have any questions out there, Rhonda?
Yes, they're asking if this can be viewed after it is over, and I believe it will be posted on your Facebook.
It'll be on the Carbon County Commissioner Facebook page. It'll be on C4 Commissioner Facebook page. We'll go ahead and ensure that it stays up. But more importantly, if you have a specific question in lieu of working your way back through this video, right? Your time is valuable. 570-325-3611. Give Rhonda a call. She'll be your first level kind of response. If she can't answer the question, she'll get you in touch or reach out to Jeff and get you a timely response. Please do not procrastinate filling out your applications. You come Friday afternoon, I'm telling you, if it's the first time you're stepping into that system, you're likely to stumble and fall. And the clock is going to strike 12 at midnight, and the application period's going to turn into a pumpkin again. So again, you have to lean forward now. Gather your documents once you review the general and the specific instructions. Look at the 2 videos, or at least one of them, either using Chrome, Internet Explorer, Safari. Understand the process, ask your questions, and start filling out that application and get it in early. Get it in as quickly as possible. So we have a few more minutes here. This is Commissioner Chris Lukasiewicz. I'm joined by Jeff and by Rhonda of the BGAC, Block Grant Administration. So we're here to answer your question for a few more minutes live here on Facebook. And again, available always, 570-325-3611, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. After hours, 570-503-6780. Do we have anything there, Rhonda?
We do. They're questioning, so they can project losses towards the end of the year and apply for the grant based on their projections.
If an item, and I use the nonprofit as an example, so if they know the event's being canceled, then yes. For a small business in tourism, we don't know exactly what's going to occur, so that's gonna be difficult to project forward, and we're actually looking back. Hopefully that answers the question.
Another question is, what about landlords who lost income?
My answer to a lot of places, any small business, sole proprietorships and anything like that, or small businesses, they're eligible to apply.
Yeah. And what come to landlord also, again, if you're losing money because of those who you're leasing to, or they're having problems, I would direct you to the Carbon County's rent relief program that can provide up to $750 a month to the landlord to make up what might be a delta, or make up that amount of money that has been lost. That rent relief program, if you go to www.phfa.org, www.phfa.org/PA Cares, that'll get you to that site. That's a program administered by Catholic Charities on behalf of Carbon County. Both the renter and the individual renting the facility or the apartment has to come together to do that. But that is another opportunity to ensure that you are getting what is required by the renter for you.
And that is
PHFA. Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, www.phfa.org/PA Cares. Yep.
Okay. Can a 501c4 apply under the 501c3 umbrella?
No, if you are not, the only nonprofits that can apply are ones that have been determined by the IRS to be 501c3 and 501c19. So if you do not have the 501c3 or 501c19 determination letter from the IRS, under the current regulations, those are the only two types of nonprofits that are eligible. That is not a county requirement, that is a federal and state requirement.
Well, I want to thank first and foremost Jeff and Rhonda from the BCAG for joining us. I want to thank you for joining us on Facebook Live through the Facebook page, Carbon County Commissioner or others. Again, I'm going to ask you to spread the word about this application program and what you can do to all your friends, your contacts, your groups, the entities, organizations you belong to or you know that might qualify. Direct them to www or just carboncounty.com, right? Carboncounty.com will get you right to where you can hyperlink to the portal. The BCAG is available at 570-325-3611, 8:30 to 4:30 to answer your questions, help you through the process. Again, you have until next Friday at midnight to apply for this block grant. Again, don't procrastinate, get out there, and also have a wonderful weekend. And I'm going to make one more sales pitch, and that's for Carbon County residents, season pass holders who have memberships out there, campers, renting the pavilions out at Mock Chunk Lake Park. Get out there, enjoy your beach, right? It's yours. Enjoy it. Take advantage of the social distancing that has been incorporated into our plan for Mock Chunk Lake Park. Get out there, enjoy it. It's all yours. Have a great weekend. This is Chris Lukasevich on behalf of Jeff and Rhonda, who's joining me. Take care. Thank you so much.